Good evening, everybody from, well, I was going to say sunny Florida, but there's no sun down here right now. I'm in Florida, but it's colder here than it was in Tennessee. So it didn't help much. You know, they say that you have to change your latitude, right? So I tried that. It didn't work, apparently. But tomorrow's supposed to be a sunny day, but tomorrow I'm working all day here, so I won't get to see the sun. Okay, so tonight, guys, we are going to be reading from the third canto, chapter 13, which is the appearance of Varaha. But if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of give you a little prelude to chapter 13 by reading some select verses in chapter 12, which is the creation of the Kumaras. You might remember that chapter. So that would be chapter 12. And if you don't mind, I'd like to offer my respects to my spiritual master first. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devim Gauravani Pracharane Mera Vishesha Srinivadi Pastyacharya Shatane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garidhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So everybody hit the mute button and I'll begin reading. I'm going to read third canto, chapter 12, text 1 through 12, and then I'll turn it over to somebody to pick up on verses or text 21 to 27. So in chapter 12, creation of the Kumaras and others, text 1, Sri Maitreya said, O learned Vidura, so far I've explained to you the glories of the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his feature of Kala. Now you can hear from me about the creation of Brahma, the reservoir of all Vedic knowledge. Brahma first created the nescient engagements like self-deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, the sense of false ownership, and the illusory bodily conception or forgetfulness of one's real identity. Seeing such a misleading creation as a sinful task, Brahma did not feel much pleasure in his activity, and therefore he purified himself by meditation on the personality of Godhead. Then he began another term of creation. In the beginning, Brahma created four great sages named Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumar. All of them were unwilling to adopt materialistic activities because they were highly elevated due to their semens flowing upward. Brahma spoke to his sons after generating them. My dear sons, he said, now generate progeny. But due to their being attached to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they aimed at liberation, and therefore they expressed their unwillingness. On the refusal of the sons to obey the order of their father, there was much anger generated in the mind of Brahma, which he tried to control and not express. Although he tried to curb his anger, it came out from between his eyebrows, and a child mixed blue and red was immediately generated. After his birth, he began to cry, O destiny maker, teacher of the universe, kindly designate my name and place. The all-powerful Brahma, who was born from the lotus flower, pacified the boy with gentle words, accepting his request and said, do not cry, I shall certainly do as you desire. Thereafter, Brahma said, O chief of the demigods, you shall be called by the name Rudra by all the people because you have so anxiously cried. My dear boy, I have already selected the following places for your residence: the heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and austerity. Lord Brahma said, my dear boy Rudra, you have 11 other names: Manu, Manu, Mahinasa, Mahan, Shiva, Ritabhaja, Ugrareta, Baba, Kala, Vamanadev, and Dhri Vrata. O Rudra, You also have 11 wives called the Rudranis. So we'll stop there on that one. And then if somebody would like to pick up on text 21 through 27, the reason that we're going through this is so that you guys can understand when we get to the creation of how Varaha appeared, it won't be so amazing to you because you'll understand all these wonderful activities of Lord Brahma. So is anybody like to pick that up on text 21 through 27? You see anybody? Okay. Roshan?
So text 21, Brahma, who was empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thought of generating living entities and begot 10 sons for the extension of the generations. Marisi, Atri, Angira, Pulutsya, Pulahar, Kritu, Brigu, Vashisht, Daksha, and the 10th son, Narad, were thus born. Narad was born from the deliberation of Brahma, which is the best part of his body. Vashisht was born from his breathing, Daksha from a thumb, Brigu from his touch, and Kretu from his hand. Pulutsya was generated from his ears, Angira from the mouth, Atri from the eyes, Marisi from the mind, and Pulaha from the navel of Brahma. Religion was manifested from the breast of Brahma, wherein is seated the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan.
Okay, you there?
Lust.
Your signal may be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Okay, maybe you can switch to somebody else. I'll check my computer.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
All right. Who else wants to grab this at 25?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Religion was manifested from the breast of Brahma, wherein is seated the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, and irreligion appeared from his back, where horrible death takes place for the living entity. Lust and desire became manifested from the heart of Brahma, anger from between his eyebrows, greed between his lips, the power of speaking from his mouth, the ocean and his penis, and low and abominable activities from his anus, the source of all sins. Wow. Sage Kardama, husband of the great Devahuti, was manifested from the shadow of Brahma. Thus all manifested from either the body or the mind of Brahma.
Now, if you don't mind, skip over to 34 through 41 for me right now. 31 through, or excuse me, 34 through 41.
Okay, 34.
34 through
Once upon a time, when Brahma was thinking of how to create the world, as in the past millennium, the four Vedas, which contain all varieties of knowledge, became manifested from his four mouths. The four kinds of paraphernalia for conducting the fire sacrifice became manifest. The performer, the chanter, the offerer, the fire, and the action performed in terms of the supplementary Vedas. Also, the four principles of religiosity, truth, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness, and their duties in the four social orders all became manifest. Vidura said, "O great sage, whose only wealth is penance, kindly explain to me how and with whose help Brahma established the Vedic knowledge which emanated from his mouth." Mahesh said, beginning from the front face of Brahma, gradually four Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva, became manifest. Therefore, Vedic hymns, which had not been pronounced before, receive rituals, the subject matters of recitation, and transcendental activities were all established one after another. Shall I continue?
Yeah, read to 41.
Okay. He also created the medical science, military art, musical art, and architectural science, all from the Vedas. They all emanated one after another, beginning from the front face. Then he created the fifth Veda, the Puranas and histories. from all his mouths, since he could see all the past, present, and future. All the different varieties of fire sacrifices, Sodasi, Kata, Urashi, Aginatoma, Aportoma Yama, Atarita, Vajapaya, and Gosva became manifestate from the eastern mouth of Brahma. Education, charity, penance, and truth are said to be the four legs of religion. And to learn this, there are four orders of life with different classifications of castes according to location. Brahma created all these in a systematic order.
Very good. Now, if you want to continue reading, you're welcome to. We still have another 50 verses after this, but if you would read from 51 to 57, and that will finish this preliminary understanding of Brahma and his creation just about the time that Lord Varaha is ready to appear. So text 51 through 57.
You talking to me?
Yeah, you can read that.
Okay, sure. I just had to scroll ahead there. Brahma thought to himself, alas, it is wonderful that in spite of being scattered all over, there is still insufficient population throughout the universe. There is no other cause for this misfortune but destiny. While he was thus absorbed in contemplation and was observing his supernatural power, two other forms were generated from his body. They are still celebrated as the body of Brahma. The two newly separated bodies united together in a sexual relationship. One of them, the one who had the male form, became known as the Manu named Svabha Bhuva, and the woman became known as And the woman became known as Satara Upa, the queen of the great soul Manu. Therefore, by sex indulgence, they gradually increased generations of population one after another. O son of Bharta, in the due course of time, he, Manu, became in Satarupa 5 children, 2 sons, Priyavatra and Uttanapada, and 3 daughters, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti. The father, Manu, handed over his first daughter, Akuti, to the sage Ruchi, the middle daughter, Devahuti, to the sage Kardama, and the youngest, Prasuti, to Daksha. From them, all the world filled with population.
Very good. Thank you so much for that. So now we'll be starting on chapter 13, the appearance of Varaha. The reason we wanted to give a little cue up for that is that Lord Brahma, you might remember, after he witnessed Krishna in the spiritual sky, in his four-handed form, sitting on his throne, leaning forward towards his devotees, smiling affectionately. His smile is the indication of his extensive benefits or benedictions that he's going to be offering his devotees. So after Brahma saw that, he was completely inspired. Okay, he had meditated for 1,000 celestial years. Tapa was the voice of God that came to him, and he performed tapasya in penance. And as a result, Krishna was well pleased. So you might remember that from our previous discussion that we had at the last class. So now in this third canto, what is happening is Vidura and Maitreya are discussing all of this wonderful activity. Actually, Maitreya is explaining this to Vidura. And so therefore he's giving him the information that he was requiring from him. And you'll see that as we go on down the list. So who would like to read chapter 13, the appearance of Lord Varaha? And you can take 10 or 15 verses. Who would like to do that? Roshan, are you queued up yet? Are you ready? No?
Okay, I got it.
You got it. Okay, so give me about 15 good verses if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. Shri Sukdev Goswami said, O king, after hearing all these most virtuous topics from the sage Maitreya, Vidur inquired further on the topics of Supreme Personality of Godhead, which we adored to hear. Vidur said, O great sage, what did Swambhu, the dear son of Brahma, do after obtaining his very loving wife? O best of the virtuous, the original King of Kings Manu was a great devotee of the personality of Godhead Hari, and thus it is worth hearing of his sublime character and activities. Please describe them. I'm very eager to hear. Persons who hear from a spiritual master with great labor and for a long time must hear from the mouths of pure devotees about the character and activities of pure devotees. Pure devotees always think within their hearts of the lotus feet of Lord, personality of Godhead, who awards his devotees liberation. Sri Sukdev Goswami said, the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, was pleased to place his lotus feet on the left of the Guru.
You might want to mute. You might want to mute Jeremiah. I think that's you.
Oh,
Yep, sorry.
should I continue? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now. So continue
Okay.
where you were.
So Sri Sukdev Goswami said, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, was pleased to place his lotus feet on the lap of Vidur because Vidur was very meek and gentle. The sage Maitreya was very pleased with Vidur's words, and being influenced by his spirit, he attempted to speak. The sage Maitreya said to Vidur, after his appearance, Manu, the father of mankind, along with his wife, thus addressed the reservoir of Vedic wisdom, Brahma, with obeisances and folded hands. You are the father of all living entities and the source of their subsistence, because they are all born of you. Please order us how we may be able to render service unto you. O worshipful one, please give us your directions for the execution of duty within our working capacity so that we can follow it for fame in this life and progress in the next. Lord Brahma said, my dear son, O Lord of the world, I am very pleased with you, and I desire all blessings for both you and your wife. You have without reservation surrendered yourself unto me with your heart for my instructions. O hero, your example is quite befitting a son in relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required. One who's beyond the limit of envy and who is sane, accepts the order of his father with great delight and executes it to his full capacity. Since you are my very obedient son, I ask you to beget children qualified like yourself in the womb of your wife. Rule the world in pursuance of the principles of devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus worship the Lord by performance of yajna. O King, if you can give proper protection to the living beings in the material world, that will be the best service for me. When the Supreme Lord sees you to be a good protector of the conditioned souls, certainly the master of the senses will be very pleased with you. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardhan, Lord Krishna, is the form to accept all the results of sacrifice. If he is not satisfied, then one's labor for advancement is futile. He is the ultimate self, and therefore one who does not satisfy him certainly neglects his own interests. Shri Manu said, O all-powerful Lord, O killer of all sins, I shall abide by your order. Now please let me know my place and that of the living entities born of me. O master of the demigods, please attempt to lift the earth, which is merged in a great water, because it is the dwelling place for all the living entities. It can be done by your endeavor and by the mercy of the Lord.
Very good. Thank you, Roshan. That was really good. So now we're at the part where they are asking for the Lord to come and lift the earth out of the water. So Jeremiah, you're here. Can you read from 16 to about, say, 10 or 15 verses? Would you like
Sure.
to? Yeah, please do that.
All right. Sri Maitreya said, thus seeing the earth merged in the water, Brahma gave his attention for a long time to how it could be lifted. Brahma thought, while I have been engaged in the process of creation, the earth has been inundated with a deluge and has gone down into the depths of the ocean. What can we do who are engaged in this matter of creation? It is best to let the Almighty Lord direct us. O sinless Vidura, all of a sudden, while Brahma was engaged in thinking, a small form of a boar came out of his nostril. The measurement of the creature was not more than the upper portion of a thumb. O descendant of Bharata, while Brahma was observing him, that boar became situated in the sky in a wonderful manifestation as gigantic as a great elephant. Struck with wonder at observing the wonderful boar-like form in the sky, Brahma, with great Brahmanas like Marisi, as well as Kumaras and Manu, began to argue in various ways. Is this some extraordinary entity come in the pretense of a boar? It is very wonderful that he has come from my nose. First of all, this boar was seen no bigger than the tip of a thumb, and within a moment he was as large as a stone. My mind is perturbed. Is he the Supreme Personality Godhead Vishnu? While Brahma was deliberating with his sons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu roared tumultuously like a great mountain. The omnipotent Supreme Personality Godhead enlivened Brahma and the other highly elevated Brahmanas by again roaring with his uncommon voice, which echoed in all directions. When the great sages and thinkers who are residents of Janaloka, Tapoloka, Satyaloka heard the tumultuous voice of Lord Boar, which was the all-auspicious sound of the all-merciful Lord, they chanted auspicious chants from the three Vedas. Playing like an elephant, he entered into the water after roaring again in reply to the Vedic prayers by the great devotees. The Lord is the object of the Vedic prayers, and thus he understood that the devotees' prayers were meant for him. Before entering the water to rescue the earth, Lord Boar flew in the sky, slashing his tail, his hard hairs quivering. His very glance was luminous, and he scattered the clouds in the sky with his hooves and his glittering white tusks. He was personally the Supreme Lord Vishnu and was therefore transcendental, yet because he had the body of a hog. He searched after the earth by smell. His tusks were fearful, and he glanced over the devotee Brahmanas engaged in offering prayers. Thus he entered the water. Diving into the water like a giant mountain, Lord Boar divided the middle of the ocean, and the two high waves appeared as the arms of the ocean, which cried loudly as if praying to the Lord, "O Lord, of all sacrifices, please do not cut me in two. Kindly give me protection." Lord Boar penetrated the water with his hooves, which were like sharp arrows, and found the limits of the ocean, although it was unlimited. He saw the earth, the resting place for all living beings, lying as it was in the beginning of creation, and he personally lifted it. Lord Boar very easily took the earth on his tusks and got it out of the water. Thus he appeared very splendid, then his anger glowing like the Sudarsana wheel. He immediately killed the demon, although he tried to fight with the Lord.
Okay. Oh, that's Hiranyaksha, the demon Hiranyaksha. By the way, that's another story that we'll be reading and adding to this. A wonderful story about the battle between Hiranyaksha and Lord Boar Varaha. So we'll be studying that a little bit later and adding it to this discussion. Very good. Thank you very much for that, Jeremiah. It's good to see you tonight. How you doing?
Wonderful. Good to see you too. Thank you.
Good, looking good. Appreciate it. So who else wants to grab a little bit of this? We've got a few more verses, probably 20 or 30 more verses here. Who wants to take a next ride? How about you, Rangavati? You want that? Is Rakesh here?
Okay, I can do.
Huh?
Would you like me to read for a bit?
Yeah, read a little bit. And then Nashingalila, Chaitanya, you guys going to be able to read tonight with us? Are you there? You can read?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll let Rangavati go, and then you're next. Okay. Very good.
Text 31. Lord Boar very easily took the earth on his tusks and got it out of the oh no, read that one. Sorry. 32. Thereupon, Lord Boar killed the demon within the water, just as a lion kills an elephant. The cheeks and tongue of the Lord became smeared with the blood of the demon, just as an elephant becomes reddish from digging in the purple earth. Then the Lord played like an elephant and suspended the earth on the edge of his curved white tusks. He assumed a bluish complexion like that of a tamal tree, and thus the sages headed by Brahma could understand him to be the supreme personality of Godhead and offered respectful obeisances unto the Lord. All the sages uttered with great respect, O conquerable enjoyer of all sacrifices, all glories and all victories unto you. You are moving in your form of the personified Vedas, and in the hair holes of your body the oceans are submerged. For certain reasons to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the form of a boar. O Lord, your form is worshipable by performances of sacrifice, but souls who are simply miscreants are unable to see it. All the Vedic hymns, Gayatri and others, are in the touch of your skin. In your bodily hairs is the kusha grass. In your eyes is the clarified butter. And in your 4 legs are the 4 kinds of fruitive activities. O Lord, your tongue is a plate of sacrifice. Your nostril is another plate of sacrifice. In your belly is the eating place of sacrifice. And another plate of sacrifice is the holes of your ears. In your mouth is the Brahma plate of sacrifice. Your throat is the plate of sacrifice known as Soma. And whatever you chew is known as Agnihotra. Moreover, O Lord, the repetition of your appearance is the desire for all kinds of initiation. Your neck is the place for 3 desires, and your tusks are the result of initiation and the end of all desires. Your tongue is the prior activities of initiation. Your head is the fire without sacrifice, as well as the fire of worship, and your living forces are the aggregate of all desires. O Lord, your semen is the sacrifice called Soma Yagna. Your growth is the ritualistic performances of the morning. Your skin and touch sensations are the 7 elements of the Agnishtoma sacrifice. Your bodily joints are symbols of various other sacrifices performed in 12 days. Therefore, you are the object of all sacrifices called Soma and Asoma, and you are bound by Yagyas only. O Lord, you are the supreme personality of Godhead and are worshipable by universal prayers, Vedic hymns, and sacrificial ingredients. We offer obeisances unto you. You can be realized by the pure mind, freed from all visible and invisible material contamination. We offer our respectful obeisances to you as the supreme spiritual master of knowledge in devotional service. O lifter of the earth with its mountains, which you have lifted with your tusks, is situated as beautifully as a lotus flower with leaves sustained by an infuriated elephant just coming out of the water. O Lord, as the peaks of great mountains become beautiful when decorated with clouds, your transcendental body has become beautiful because of your lifting the earth on the edge of your tusks.
That's very good. Yeah, thank you, Rangavati. That's very, very nice. So I think, Nishringa, you want to do some reading? Can you read there from 42?
Yes, Prabhu. O Lord, for the residential purposes of all inhabitants, both moving and non-moving, this earth is your wife, and you are the supreme father. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you, along with the Mother Earth, in whom you have invested your own potency. Just as an expert sacrificer put fire in the Arani wood. Who else but you, the supreme personality of Godhead, could deliver the earth from within the water? It is not very wonderful for you. However, because you acted most wonderfully in the creation of the universe, by your energy, you have created this wonderful cosmic manifestation. O Supreme Lord, undoubtedly we are inhabitants of the most pious planet, the Jana, Tapas, and Satyalokas, but still we have been purified by the drops of water sprinkled from your shoulder hairs by the shaking of your body. O Lord, there is no limit to your wonderful activities. Anyone who desires to know the limit of your activities is certainly nonsensical. Everyone in this world is conditioned by the powerful mystic potencies. Please bestow your causeless mercy upon these conditioned souls. The says Maitreya said, the Lord being thus worshipped by all the great sages, the transcendentalists touched the earth with his hose and placed it on the water. In this manner, the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the maintainer of all living entities, raised the earth from within the water and having placed it afloat on the water, he returned to his own abode. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Bore, which is worthy of description, the Lord who is within the heart of everyone is very pleased. Nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord Himself, who is seated in everyone's heart. Who, other than the one who is not a human being, can exist in this world and not be interested in the ultimate goal of life? Who can refuse the nectar of narrations about the personality of Godhead's activities, which is by itself can deliver one from all material pangs?
Thank you so very much. That was excellent. Okay, so that is the story of the appearance of Lord Varaha. And later, there are other stories about Lord Varaha and his battle with Hiranyaksha. And you may be familiar with that. We plan to find that and add that to this particular context. You know, the Srimad Bhagavatam is not chronologically written, and it's not in sequence. So sometimes you'll be in one place of the Bhagavatam and hear a story that's going to be many, many cantos later. And then in those cantos, you'll be hearing about something that happened much earlier. So the idea is what we're trying to do is kind of put together the story in its fullness and its wholeness as possible. So one of the reasons why we wanted to go back to the previous chapter was so that, you know, we can understand that Lord Brahma was engaged by Krishna's power, potency, and sanction in the creation of the material universe. So as he was doing that, millions of species were created, literally millions of species. And still, he was not satisfied with the population. There needed to be more and more population. So Swayambhuva Manu, we hear about that and his experience. And then we see that there are Manus that come on down the line and Prajapatis that come down the line, and they increase the population of the universe. So originally, God is, of course, one without a second. We know that. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakadana Kadanam. We know that the Lord is one without a second. We also know from Brahma Samhita, which is the Song of Brahma, Angani Yasyasakalendriya Briti Manti Pashanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jvala Vigrahasha. So we know that the Lord, from any of his senses, they are interchangeable. He can glance over creation and impregnate with his glance. So it's not necessary for him to use one sense or the other. Simply by the Lord's thinking or willing, all of these things are easily manifested in the material universe through his servant, Lord Brahma. So I wanted to ask, does anybody have any specific question, or is there any specific illumination that you would like to make based on the story that we've just read? And please, if you have something you'd like to add, please do that right now.
That's something I wanted to say, because we're calling this great histories and personalities, because this is a history. It's not a a story that you tell children, a fairy tale. And I was reading some months back an article by devotees, by a particular devotee who is intelligent and understands these things. He was saying that this, what we're reading about when Lord Varaha raised the earth on his tusks, took place approximately 65 million years ago. And I also heard something on a scientific thing that said our solar system that we have is approximately 65 billion, 65, what did I say? 65 million years. So as our solar system is approximately 65 million years as well. So that makes sense. These times are the same, because obviously when the Earth fell, we probably lost all the solar system, all the other planets and everything. And then we sort of like came back up and they were recreated, I suppose. So those timings are approximately the same. So it shows this is a history and not a story.
Well, the word Purana actually means history. So the fifth Veda is the Bhagavad Purana, and that is the Purana, particularly of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who comes in multifarious species throughout all creation and all universes for the benefit of the living entities. All of this that we see is actually a dream that the Lord is having, right? So we know that Mahavishnu expands he's on the bed of Sheshanaga, and then from him, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the lotus flower, the umbilical cord, basically, Lord Brahma, and then the Lord enters in each heart as Shirodakshaya Vishnu, so that the super soul is with us at every moment and has never left us. But the real thing here is some people think it's fantastic that the Lord could come as a boar, but it's actually not very fantastic at all, according to what we just read. The Lord is capable of unlimited potencies. The Lord is capable of doing anything he desires, and he's able to manifest and maintain it without any difficulty. In the Bhagavad Gita, he says, I enter into all of this, and he says, but behold, I am not in it. So this is God's potency. He's there and not there. Material world is created, and its energies are manifested here, and they go on without his need to worry about it. He's got all the demigods he's expanded into, and particularly in this story, we hear about the creation of Rudra, of Shiva, from when Brahma was trying to populate the universe, because Brahma is doing this as service to Krishna, and he was told to populate the universe. And so he has the four Kumaras, and they want to take up celibacy as brahmachari monks. So Brahma got angry, and from that Shiva or Rudra was born, right? So there are many, many great stories that we see like this in the Srimad Bhagavatam that might be difficult for us to understand. So it's also very difficult for us to understand how God can be smaller than the smallest or larger than the largest. So when we hear about Lord Brahma, his meditation, his thinking about how to get the earth out of the water, basically Lord Boar immediately came from his nostril to accommodate. You see what I'm saying? So he started out as a small, like thumb-like creature, but then he grew into the size of a big stone, a big rock, and then after that, very, very large. So none of this is very fantastic for the Lord. The Lord's competent and capable to do anything he so desires. There are no restrictions. He doesn't understand his own potency. No one can understand his potency. Brahma can't understand his potency. He said that in the last chapter. We read that no one can understand the great potencies of the Lord. So it's just like in our lives also. If you desire something and you think about it, thinking becomes feeling, and feeling becomes willing. And when you will something to be done, the facilities that God has given you, as far as your senses, your mind, all of this, the earth itself, the field of activities, time, karma, the three modes of material nature, all of these things begin to work together synergistically to create an existence that you have created. So in one sense, we're little creators also. We're little creators just like God is. We're creating our own destiny actually by our choice of activities. So we know that karma is can be one of three kinds: good, bad, or no karma. So you could have good karma and you come back to the material world, maybe in the heavenly planets, but then at some point your karmic bank account is spent and you fall back into the world of men. Or if you perform activities that are not in line with the will of God, then one can easily fall down even into lower species of life and suffer in hellish conditions on lower planets until the karma is burned off. And at that point, come back to this position. But in human life is precious. Human life is in the image of God in his two-handed form, threefold bending form of Shamsundra. We're created with two legs, two arms, two eyes like that, like Krishna in his original form. And in this form, we actually create our destiny. We actually create our destiny either to go back or to go to the heavenly planets, to go to the hellish planets, stay in this earthly planet, or if we desire to become 100% engaged in the service of the Lord, then there will be no karma to suffer or joy in the material world, and we will return back home, back to Godhead. So we have unlimited desires. Our desires are unlimited. And you can't be still for not even a moment, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So to try to quiet all of this is very, very difficult. So in the age of Kali, the recommendation is Harinama, right? Harinama, 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 Eva Kalevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatir Antyataha. So that means in this age of Kali, all of the sacrifices that we've been reading about, all of these wonderful austerities and penances, some of them very, very difficult. All of them can be handled simply by dovetailing the desiring process and dovetailing that with Krishna's desire. Dovetailing our desires with what Krishna wants, with what God wants. And it's in your self-interest because Krishna is the Lord of the self. He's the master of the senses anyway. The Lord is providing all of this for us, and we're small parts and parcels of the Lord. And our goal then is to fall back in line with the desire and the will of the Lord. And what has happened here is we've left that behind, and we're here struggling with the mind and struggling hard with the mind and the senses. And they are binding us in various karmic reaction that we will suffer or enjoy for time immemorial. And we can continue like this as long as we want to. Or we can listen to Krishna and we can go back home, back to Godhead. So God comes in all these species, and the Bhagavad Gita says, I'm the monarch in all species. So in this case, he came as a boar. God is very intelligent. If you study his purposes, you'll see that they're all perfect and complete. That whatever the Lord desires, he manifests a perfect situation to accommodate that. And so in this case, a boar, the body of a boar, was perfect for that. We'll find out that a body of a tortoise is perfect for another pastime. You see what I'm saying? So God can appear in any form that he would like. We'll find out that the body of a fish will become perfect for the Lord's pastimes as we go through these stories in Bhagavatam. And then, of course, he does appear in his human-like form as well. So in the Bhagavad Gita, if we read from the verses or chapter 4, 3 through 9, we'll see, I'll read these to you. It says, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, that very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So he reveals in that verse that if we want to understand how God can become a boar and take that form for a particular purpose, or whatever form he desires to take, we can understand it if we're Krishna's friend, if we're not envious of the Lord. We can enter into the transcendental mystery of this great science. Okay, Arjuna said, the sun god Vivishwan is senior by birth to you. How is it that I'm to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? Personality of Godhead said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember them all, but you cannot. So we don't remember, our previous lives. Occasionally, somebody may have a remembrance of that. As a matter of fact, recently Rangavati sent me a link to something where these children were recalling their previous lives, and it was uncanny. The details and the science of it, it made perfect sense. And they've come into a new body. So normally we don't remember them, just like you don't remember your dreams when you wake up. Only the most profound dreams, sometimes you might remember a little bit. So the Lord tells Arjuna that they've had many births, but he can't remember all of them, but Krishna can. And he says that although I'm unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I'm the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So Krishna does come in every millennium in his original transcendental form as well. But in certain cases, he will come in different forms, in different ways, as we'll see as we continue our reading in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, any point or question about that you might have? Bring it up if you'd like. And then in text 24, Krishna says in the same chapter that a person who's fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute, and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. This is a very, very important verse for us to understand, because when you offer service to God, it is not a mundane thing. It's not of the material world. It becomes transcendentalized. The activity, when offered to the Lord, is not a mundane, there's no mundane reaction for that, because the contribution is spiritual and the consummation is absolute, because what is offered is of the same spiritual nature. It may look like an apple, it may look like a pear, it may look like some kind of food stuff that grew in the material world, but now it becomes prashadam. So it's transformed, literally. Just like a iron rod put in a fire is no longer an iron rod, it becomes fire and acts in the same way as fire. So we have to understand that this is the purpose that we have to somehow imbibe in our lives. And so Prabhupada has given us these process of sadhana bhakti, which starts with the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And there are lots of other prayers that we chant to the great souls. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripasinda Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we actually honor the Vaishnavas, and Krishna is very, very pleased. And in these various verses, he describes how he is the sacrificial fire. His palate is the sacrificial fire. So when we offer it to Krishna, then it is consumed in the fire of sacrifice, and therefore the beneficiaries of such sacrifice. No question about it. So, and then if you look on 36, made a note, I wanted to read this one to you in the same chapter. It says, even if you're considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. So these stories situate us in the boat of transcendental knowledge. They situate us in such a circumstance that we can cross over these ocean of miseries. And as a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all the reactions of material activities. So simply by reading and hearing these stories, relishing these stories of the Lord, we become spiritualized. We become free of the modes of material energy. We become peaceful. We become happy. We become secure in our devotional service. And as we please the Lord reveals himself to us. And as he reveals himself to us, our taste or ruchi develops, so that at a certain point, the reward is that you may have tears that flow from the eyes at certain times when you think of the pastimes of the Lord. You may feel your hair standing on end, or some a sense of chill running up and down the back. These are very much welcome by the Bhakti Yogi. They're not sentimentality when they're based in knowledge. They are actual reality. Sentimentality without knowledge, is not desirable. So if you have love and knowledge, Bhakti Vedanta, if you have both together, then you have a mature understanding of love, not just some sentimentality. So one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work. So that is a very, very, very important point, because by hearing these stories, we become attracted to the personality of Godhead in his different incarnations. We begin to understand the mind of the Lord a little better. And what happens is we are satisfied in our hearts and souls with his activities and great stories. And then we begin to understand our relationship in those stories as well. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 9, text 8, the Lord says, the whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again. And under my will, it is annihilated at the end. So when we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we're going in and out of sometimes partial annihilations. And in this case, Brahma was born on the lotus flower in darkness, didn't understand. He performed tapasya. Krishna revealed himself to Brahma. Krishna will do the same for us. Our tapasya is very sweet. A little Krishna prasadam, right? The beautiful deities who we adore, and easy to fall in love with those beautiful deities. A little devotional service in the temple, no matter how humble it may be. If we give some of the results of our actions and our wealth to the Lord for the sake of preaching, building new temples, and disseminating books and this information, then we will be involved in transcendental activity that will yield the fruits of love of Godhead in due course of time. We have to be patient. We've been in this material world for a long time. And so to think that, oh, it's just that easy to get out. If you spent trillions of births and deaths in the material world, and you think all of a sudden now it's just, oh, very quickly, cheaply, I can get out. Actually, by the mercy of the spiritual master, it can happen. And that's causeless mercy. And that's the mercy that we're looking for. We want the causeless mercy of the spiritual master. And we feel helpless without that, knowing that by ourselves, there's no chance that we could ever become liberated. But through the mercy of the spiritual master, liberation is ensured if we follow his instructions. So I thought those were nice verses to add. We do know that the Lord will come. The demigods go periodically. And was it Purusha Shukta prayers? They go to the ocean of milk and they pray the prayers. They get the attention of Vishnu. They plead their case. Normally, Lord Brahma does this. And then he gets some telepathic message from the Lord explaining what the demigods need to do next. And in many cases, they're told to take their birth in the material world to be a part of the pastimes and the activities of the Lord upon his incarnation. So we know that in the story of Lord Ramchandra and in the story of Lord Krishna as well, that's mentioned over and over again. And we even see in his dynasty that these are miracles that no one else can do. We see that the Lord is doing these miracles that no one else could boast that they have the capability of doing this. Right? So we know that this personality is God, but the demons still deny the Lord. Dhritarashtra and Dronacharya, they denied literally that this was the personality of God who came to plead on behalf of the Pandavas. He came to plead, please, don't act in this way. But they persisted due to lust, greed, and envy. And they did everything they could do to destroy the Pandavas. They tried to kill them in so many different ways. And none of it was successful because the Lord was there to protect him. So if the Lord is for you, who can be against you? No one. So that's our claim to fame. And when we read these stories about Lord Varaha and how capable God is to come and lift planets, and we may think, oh my God, how is it possible he can lift a planet? Right now, there are trillions of planets and stars and Lord knows what in the universe that we can see through our little telescopes. And they're all floating very nicely. Right? Just as they were meant to. Everything is in perfect order, perfect harmony. And we see that the Lord is capable of doing that. So what is the big deal that he is picking up one planet? Not much. Not so wonderful. It is wonderful, but in the greater scheme of things, it is just another example of how the Lord manifests his pastimes really for the pleasure of his devotees. He does it for the pleasure of his devotees. He does it for the sake of love. He does it for the sake of relationship. And the Lord wants his original relationship back with each and every one of us. And these wonderful activities that we study, these are real histories. Most people are going to the cinema. They're watching some fictitious so-called hero doing things that he cannot do, not even possible. It's a trick of the camera or some type of special effect. And we're trying to create the kingdom of God without God. Because if God were here, he would actually be a competition for our false ego, wouldn't he? If you think about it. So they don't want God here. They've kicked him out of the schools. literally, religion has now become something that is something that you can either believe or not believe. God is not a belief, God is a fact. All of these things are facts, but we have to study the facts. And therefore, we wouldn't be in any doubt. We're not going to be in any doubt about the capability of the Lord. These things won't seem so fantastic, but instead we'll understand the mind of the Lord and we'll appreciate his activities. And it will cause us to have these feelings of love and desire to be again with the Lord. And that's the whole idea behind the Srimad Bhagavatam, is that Krishna is coming in these different ways to attract our minds, to deliver us from these demons, to annihilate them, to establish his supremacy over and over again, and establish this eternal truth known as the Vedas over and over again through these wonderful pastimes. And when we study the pastimes, we'll see that the Lord is so intelligent, he's been able to figure out how he can please everybody through the one act. So he comes and does an act, and it benefits so many different factions of people or situations, and cures the problems. So these are going to require much more study than we have in 1 hour to do. But if you read the story of Varaha, and we'll add the story of Varaha with Hiranyaksha and that battle, maybe we should do that next. We might have to jump to a different canto, because these stories are not in chronological order, but it's nice when they're all bundled together so that we can hear the rest of the story. So we may go to, I believe, the 7th canto next, right? And we may just finish the story of Hiranyaksha and the boar, and then we'll come back to this section again. Okay, so that's the idea, and that's all I've actually got for you tonight. If there's anything else you want to add, please do.
It reminds me of a story I heard many years ago. I mean, a pastime, you know, a history. I think it was a Narada Muni history. And Narada Muni was traveling, as he does, and he came across this poor man, this poor beggar man, who, and they had a conversation, and Narada Muni said he was going to be going to see Lord Krishna. And so the poor beggar man said, "Oh, please give him my humble obeisances, you know." And so then Narada Muni walked on, and he came across this Brahmin man, this Brahmin who was doing all his Vedic sacrifices and his hymns and things. And Narada Muni said, I'll be going to see Krishna. And so the Brahmin said, "Oh, please give me my humble obeisances and things." So Lord Krishna, so he goes to see Lord Krishna. Then he comes back and he sees the Brahmin man again. And so the Brahmin man says, "Well, what was my Lord doing when you went to see him?" And so Narada Muni said, "Well, he was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle." And the Brahmin man said, "I don't believe you. That's impossible. And why would he do anything like that? I don't believe you." And so Narada Muni went on and saw this poor man, this beggar man. And so this beggar man said, "Oh, what was my Lord doing when you went to see him?" So Narada Muni said, "Well, he was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle." And the poor man said, "Oh, my dear Lord, he is so wonderful."
So he accepted it immediately.
Accepted it. Whereas the big Brahmin, got all his mantras and his education in Shastra and everything else, wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Whereas the poor man, because of his sincerity and his love for the Lord, he believed anything. The Lord could do anything, and hence he could also become a boar and go down into the ocean and lift up the earth planet.
Well, everything that we see is a manifestation of the mind of the Lord. Everything. And try to imagine, and when we think of species, the other day I saw a picture of this creature that they discovered I think it was 14,000 feet below sea level. And you should see this creature. I mean, this is an ingenious creature who can somehow survive with this crushing pressure, who's got some electrical impulses going through his body that attracts his food to him. And they're fantastic looking creatures. They're more amazing than anything that you can find in the mind of these people like Steven Spielberg or whoever these fiction writers are with these movies that we see at the theater. They're trying to come up with all these fantastic things in their mind. And all of what they're coming up with is a fiction. But what Krishna has come up with is more fantastic than their fiction, and it's real. And we get to see it every day. And every time we do, what happens is it makes us more and more humble. It should make us more and more humble, I should say. Because when we see the prowess of the Lord, the ingenious character of the Lord, and the nature of his mind, and how unlimitedly variegated it is, it just demands our appreciation and our gratitude, and then ultimately our allegiance, and then our worship. So when it gets to the point then we begin to worship the Lord, that is the beginning of the process of this Bhakti Yoga program. So we're very, very pleased that we have these great stories that enlighten us. And we're gonna be reading through the incarnations of the Lord. There's 20 some odd incarnations here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We plan to get to them all. I think maybe what we'll do the next time is we'll try to continue with and add Hiranyaksha to this, because that's the completion of this particular story of Lord Boar. And I think you'll find it intriguing. So please show up next week ready to read. And thank you all so very, very much. You read so beautifully tonight. I am.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Do you have a
My
question?
daughter wanted to add something as well, Prabhu.
Okay.
So Mataji, just to add to that, the cobbler said, "When will I also get liberated?" Can you ask him, when will I get liberated? And the Brahman also asked that. And Narada Muni went back to the Vaikuntha, and he said that the cobbler will get liberated in this very lifetime only, and the Brahman will have to wait many years for
Many
lifetimes for liberation.
Right. Okay. So
And
I'm not sure I understand the question, but the one thing that comes to mind with your point is that
I was finishing up my pastime that I was trying to tell. She had more of the details that I couldn't remember.
That part.
We're threading the elephant through the eye of the needle.
Yeah, because the Lord can award liberation instantly. The Lord can award liberation if he sees your sincerity. Really, this whole thing boils down to sincerity of desire. What do you desire? What do you really want? Krishna will fulfill your heart's desire. And he can do it in a second, or it could take billions of lifetimes. And if you're offensive to the devotees, or you're not kind to all living entities, right? That's very disappointing to Krishna. He is not very pleased with that. So therefore, it could take a long time for someone. So if we question the Lord, literally, I mean, in doubt of the Lord, then that's not very pleasing either. So we do have to come to a conclusion that Krishna is God, and that God is capable of all of these things, and all these things are manifested in that way. And then we need to begin the practice of devotional service in sincerity and with determination. And then Krishna will test us along the way. Over and over and over again, Krishna will test. But the idea is like when you go to school, you guys are going to school, your children are going to school. And at a certain point, the teacher's giving nice lessons and you're studying the lesson and you're learning. But at some point, the teacher will give you a questionnaire or a test to see if you've understood, right? Does she do that? Teacher does that, yes. So then you have to answer the questions correctly, right? And then you pass the test. Same thing with Krishna, exactly the same thing. So we're learning things about Krishna, and our knowledge, it has to be manifest into wisdom, into part of our actual being. It can't just be theoretical knowledge that we're hearing in a book somewhere. It actually has to be taken from the book, brought into the heart, and then manifest in our activities daily. Our life becomes the life of a devotee, and a devotee's life is different. And a devotee's life is very pleasing to the Lord. So some of these people, these big puffed up gyanis, or these puffed up kshatriyas, or even vaishyas who have great wealth like that, the Lord is not very pleased with that. There's one story I remember where the Balaram was with the kings after, I believe, Krishna had taken Rukmini, and they were cheating Balaram in this gambling match. And one of the kings was laughing in a very unsavory way, showing his teeth.
Dantavakra.
You remember this story? You remember that story? And what did Balaram do?
He the match was going with he was playing it was a chess match. He was playing the chess match with Rukmi, and Rukmi's brother, and Rukmi was cheating a lot, and Balaram he got very angry, and the other kings were also being disrespectful. And one king, Dantavakra, he was showing his teeth, laughing at Balaram. So once Balaram got very angry, he took his club and he broke all of Dantavakra's teeth, and I think he killed Dantavakra, and he also killed Rukmi.
Well, Rukmi actually, he didn't kill Rukmi, right? No, Rukmi brought more armies. Don't you remember? He brought more armies to Dwarka to try to defeat Krishna. 21 times he brought. So he didn't kill him right away. But it's wonderful that you know this story. So because he laughed with envy in his face, Balaram smashed his teeth like that. So you want Balaram protecting you, I promise you. And so these stories are designed to bring us to these understandings. And this is wonderful that you, born in India, Bharat Vars, you were subjected to a lot of these stories that we just had to learn. We never heard of any of these stories, but you guys were blessed from the very beginning, and your whole tradition, your family, your grandparents, great grandparents, all this, nice devotees of the Lord in most cases in India, and you're born with this. And so that if someone is speaking Bhagavatam in India, generally a large crowd will show up. If you're speaking Bhagavatam in America, you'd be lucky to have 3 or 4 people come because people don't know. They don't know Krishna yet. But when you know Krishna, you will love Krishna. When you see what he's doing, you'll fall in love with Krishna. And that is the perfection of our lives. That's the perfection of our knowledge. That's the perfection of our austerity. That's the perfection of everything that we have, our family tree, our family history. We can deliver everyone back home, back to Godhead when we ourselves become pure devotees of the Lord. So the goal of life is not to make big bank account. Yes, big bank account's okay. If Krishna gives, it's very nice. It's okay. You can use it in Krishna's service. But it's not to become big, powerful, famous man, something like that, woman. Just not like that. Those things may happen. And if they happen, they can also be used in Krishna's service. But we don't go separately looking for these things. Whatever Krishna gives, whatever Krishna offers us, we're very grateful, we're very satisfied, and we try to understand the mind of the Lord in everything that happens to us throughout every day of our lives. Krishna consciousness happens moment by moment. And so little drops fill this bucket. And so at the end of our lives, we want to have our bucket flowing over with love of God, Krishna consciousness like that. And then that way we'll be like Bhishma Dev, dying on a bed of arrows, fixing our mind on Krishna in this beautiful form, offering these wonderful prayers. Also, he offered great discourse as well. So as you become knowledgeable, you will offer great discourse. So your job is to become great preacher on behalf of the spiritual master and deliver all the fallen souls who have fallen into this mud pit, literally, of material quagmire, where it's almost like quicksand. You know, once you think to yourself, oh, this will make me happy if I could just have this sense gratification, then you go try to do it. Well, it implicates you, and now it's a domino effect. And then your life becomes very complex, and then it becomes entangled. And then you have bad reactions, and you see this bad karma coming in your life. You go, oh my God, what have I done? Time to correct your path and go back to devotional service only and meditate on Krishna in that way, and then purify. And that way you also become qualified to deliver others from this quagmire of material existence, where we've fallen in headlong and we're drowning in this ocean of despair. A very nice story. Thank you so much for that. You guys are great. Beautiful. Well, thank you all for being here. I think we're now at 8:21, so I'm not gonna make you stay longer tonight. I always say that, and we end up going over because it's such nectar. But Roshan, thank you very, very much. Jeremiah, all you guys, Shinga, your family, beautiful family you have here. Rakesh is here. Rakesh's folks, everybody's here. It's so nice to see you all. So next week, we'll pull out the Hiranyaksha story and we'll add that to this reading, okay? I'll be here same time, same station, 7 o'clock Monday night, okay?
Rangavati, I want to talk to you for a few seconds, maybe after this. Could I call you?
Okay. Yes, please call me.
Rangavati.
You want to call me right after on my phone?
No, Ranga.
Oh, me?
Yes,
Yes, definitely. Give me a call.
Okay. There you go. Perfect, guys. Well, thanks so much. I'm going to end the call, and I want to thank you again for being here. And it's a wonderful story tonight. Please take this story and read back through the purports, because that's where the real essence, where Prabhupada brings out the essence of the story. So definitely go back and read the purports for this story, The Appearance of Lord Varaha. Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hari Hari Bol.